Now here, let's talk about the virtualization in cloud computing in detail. So we already know like virtualization is the creation of virtual rather than actual version of something such as a server, a desktop, a storage device, an operating system, or network resources. So we can make the virtualization of literally any resource, whether it is a hardware resource or a software resource, or we have the storage or networking. So anything could be, or any resources could we can make as a virtual, so that one resource would be used by one or more users. So that is the idea behind the virtualization. In other words, virtualization is a technique which allow to share a single physical instance of resource or an application among multiple customer and organization. So we have single physical instance of a resource. But when we are using the virtualization technique, we can able to virtually or logically separate one virtual or one physical machine to different virtual machines, or one physical resource to different one physical resource to different virtual resource, so that many customers and organization can use one resource, one single physical resource, as a separate resources. It does by assigning a logical name to a physical storage and providing a pointer to that physical resources when demanded. So what it will do is the virtualization, it will divide the physical resources and it will provide the separate name to it. And whenever that particular logical resources or virtual resources is required, then it will provide that particular logical or the virtual resources on demand. So whenever it required, the virtualization can assign them. The term virtualization is often synonym with hardware virtualization. So generally virtualization, we assume that it is a hardware virtualization, which plays a fundamental role in efficient delivery of infrastructure as a service solution for cloud computing. So mainly the virtualization, we think that it is only the hardware virtualization. And because if you think of that, it is a hardware virtualization, so it is a fundamental concept behind the infrastructure as a service. So we have the infrastructure as a service. We know about it. Here, only the hardware or only the hardware resources will be provided by the cloud service providers. So it depend upon the user requirement. A virtual machine will be created in an infrastructure as a service, and a virtual system will be allotted to us. So we have seen in the example of EC2, AWS EC2 is an example of infrastructure as a service, where we choose the hardware that we require, and this underlying technology of virtualization under the cloud computing will provide us that particular virtual machine. Moreover, virtualization technology provide a virtual environment for not only executing application, but also for storage, memory, and networking. So it says that virtualization doesn't mean that it is only for the hardware virtualization. It can also provide the virtualization for storage. It can also provide the virtualization for memory as well as for the networking. The concept behind virtualization, you can find it out in this figure. Now here we have this virtualization software or virtualization concept. Let's say we have the hardware. The hardware is In the upper layer of it, we have the host operating system, which work in the hardware. Now, after that, we have the hypervisor. This hypervisor will help the host operating system to virtualize these hardware and create different virtual machines. So this is one virtual machine, this is another virtual machine, this is another virtual machine. So here you can clearly see three virtual machine has been created using the hypervisor. And hypervisor is a virtualization, uh, you can say the virtualization software or virtualization application, which will work in a host operating system to create different guest operating systems. And these guest operating systems are working in one particular virtual machine. And this guest operating system will have the access only to these physical hardware, which belongs to that particular virtual machine. So the creation of the virtual machine over existing operating system and hardware is known as hardware virtualization. A virtual machine provides an environment that is logically separated from underlying hardware. The machine on which the virtual machine is going to be created is known as the host machine. So in this particular host machine, different virtual machine is going to be created. That's why it is called host machine. And the virtual machine is referred to as the guest machine. And we have the guest operating system on it.